Welcome, traders. My name is Adam Harris, Chief Market Analyst. So it is Sunday, the 2nd of March. I'm recording this for my weekly watch list for the week commencing Monday, the 3rd of March. First thing, right out the gate, Friday. All right, non-farm payrolls, lots of volatility expected this weekend. I know there have been massive cuts out of the US, the current administration, not really confident how many of those will start to seep through. So we could get some surprises in the markets this week. I think it's likely to be volatile anyway. There's a ton of dollar news, also euro news. There's just so much going on. So guys, it's going to be an extra volatile week. Having a look at Euro CPI, fine, absolutely. I want to see what happens with non-farm employment change. So I think Wednesday is going to be volatile. I think with regards to the ECB rate decision, right, we get a bit of a rate cut there. Jobless claims out of the US. I want to see what happens with that. And again, ECB press conference. Now there's a lot of tension going on. Non-farms Friday being a big finish. So lots of volatility, relatively unpredictable. We'll go with what the technicals are saying, but this week could swing wildly. It could finish completely differently or ultimately just push through wherever it goes. So let's go to the charts and have a look now at what the charts are saying. First of all, let's have a look at the VIX. So the VIX, to give you some perspective, is still operating at relatively decent levels. I'm not too concerned until we start to break up here through 30. If you look at it from a weekly perspective, we're still range bound. And if you look at it from a monthly perspective, we're still right down at the lows. So the market at this time is not even on edge. So let's just keep going with that. Let's have a look at the dollar index. Dollar had a relatively strong finish last week. There we go. We've got this bullish engulfing weekly candle. Excuse me, bullish engulfing weekly candle at the top of the range. So a level that was potentially resistance, now offering some support. So this week, what I'm really focused on is will we see that dollar attempt to push up to away from that range, or is it going to ultimately finish back in the range? If it finishes back in the range, I would then expect it to continue to head lower. So I'm not going to presume to think what all of the stuff in the media is meaning, but right now this looks relatively bullish and is hinting at the dollar attempting to try to strengthen this week. But let's see how that finishes with non-farm payroll, how that goes. Also, one more thing on the data here. Yes, it has come back into previous support. This may well find resistance, but based off the overall bullishness of this, I'm going to see how this level is tested. Euro dollar as well. Euro dollar coming down to test support here around that 1.0350 level. It is actually range bound when you look at it from a weekly perspective. We're more range bound at the moment. We could ultimately find support and finish more to the upside, but it is definitely just showing a bit of that. We look here from a monthly perspective, we still managed to close kind of just relatively weak there. So although it is trying to turn around, it is not succeeding at this time. Sterling, on the other hand, much better finish as well. Got that swing low off a level of support. So for now, I do expect this to attempt to continue to push higher, but we have a little bit of a bearish week on Friday. So we're not as strong, but we do have this nice uptrend. So again, this week, looking to see if we finish higher with that, which would hint at a weaker US dollar. Dollar yen. Now we know that the Bank of Japan prefers to see this below 150. So we're in the right area here, but it is sitting at a level of support. And for now, my immediate expectation is to see it pull up and then attempt to take another move down towards these lows. If we do get that dollar, that stronger dollar, yes, we could see this start to break higher, but we also know Bank of Japan wants it lower. So the yen pairs are generally trending lower. The question is, are they going to do it in an orderly fashion, or are they going to keep sort of breaking higher and being a little bit more volatile? So really, again, going to have a look at this key level of resistance at that 151 level and see if we find some good resistance there and then come back down towards this 149 level. Dollar Swissy, also, that's a relatively strong recovery here, guys. That also looks quite bullish. So there is a big battle. We are still range bound on the monthly, and therefore there's a very fair chance we could see ourselves continuing to head down to the lows. But Friday was a very, very strong finish. That dollar coming out of showing a little bit more strength than one would have expected, and therefore there could be changes on the horizon. Dollar CAD as well. And so this has been a chart that just doesn't want to quit. We can even see here on the monthly, really overdue for a correction. This is a very bearish signal. We did break below the low and it's just completely disregarded it. So the markets are breaking their behaviors. They'll go from one state to another, to another, to another, which in itself is a sign of volatility, guys, and unpredictability right now. Then we've got gold. Gold finally managing to let off a bit of steam from a weekly perspective. We've got a very nice bearish candle here. Makes sense to me that we would see this continue to head down towards 2,800, possibly a little bit further down towards 2,700, 2,800 being potentially likely. We might ultimately finish with a nice green candle here if gold is ready to keep going. Crude oil. Crude oil just generally quite volatile as well. Range bound, we've broken lower, we've closed lower for the month of February. We look quite weak on the weekly candles here with indecision. So it's more bearish than bullish, and it's coming up to test resistance and showing a bearish candle there. So break of the low here to me would hint at and the momentum's bearish. So I would expect right now leaning more towards seeing this continue to head down towards that support at $65. Let's move on to the global indices. Again, very strong finish. Looking at the previous 4 or 5 days this week, this is just nonsense, pure garbage. Then we get this very, very strong finish across the board. Bigger picture hasn't changed though, guys. We're still kind of testing, showing a lot of volatility here. On the weekly, we're still within a range. We're ping-ponging around. Yes, some of you might be wondering, is this a head and shoulders pattern building up here? Let's see how that goes, but we are definitely still a little bit all over the place, and certainly I think that it would make sense if we're going to come down to test this level of support during the week. So the Dow there giving very much mixed signals. Here you can see the S&P on the weekly, very much range bound, completely sideways. A lot of buyers underneath this. The momentum is bearish. We've got that very strong bearish divergence. We've got this sideways consolidation with indecision on the monthly here. So this market really trying to decide what to do. We finished on Friday with a strong bullish bar off support there. And so actually when I look at it from this perspective, it makes sense to me that we would see at least an attempt by the market to push higher up. Whether it'll get all the way back up to the top, we'll see. But certainly back midway into this range. Again, as I said, Friday, we're going to have to see how this goes, and tons of US news between now and then. So again, almost more range bound on that weekly. We broke below the lows. That monthly chart starting to look relatively bearish, failing at those levels. And again, we're starting to dip a little bit below these lows here, even though we had a bit of a bullish finish. This still, to me, we show fresh highs and fresh lows. So we sort of a megaphone pattern, meaning the market is testing the highs, testing the lows. It's very much all over the place. Okay, so again, this is definitely one of those moments. Sit on your hands and wait. Sit on your hands and watch and see what's going on. Be very careful about engaging in the markets right now. Then we look at the Russell 2000. We're looking more and more bearish here, looking more and more like we might even return back in within this range. We've got a downtrend on the weekly there, and the momentum is heavily bearish. So yes, to me, looking at this, I think there's a fair chance we're going to see it head lower. We could see price pull back up into this level of support, find resistance, and continue down and finish lower. The FTSE, not looking so bad on the daily. That weekly looking pretty good, I got to say. This is nice to see this. The monthly looking very, very strong here. Yes, we have that continued bearish divergence, but price action wise, that looks pretty good. Weekly, it just doesn't want to quit just yet. Compared to, say, the US, I would say the UK, if I compare the FTSE to, the Dow, the S&P, the Nasdaq, it's doing very, very well. The DAX. Bit of a wobble here. We've got a lower high. We're still this uptrend still intact. That weekly, again, overextended, showing some exhaustion without a doubt. And so what I'd be looking for here would be a nice bearish sort of momentum move to the downside here. That monthly a little bit overextended, but now that we've got through February, we can see what March has to offer. Really would be good for this market to have a bit of a correction down to the downside, 21,000, 21,500. Let's see if that's the case. Really got to break through the level of support here. Okay, these previous lows, we'll be watching for that. Generally, or in every other respect, it looks nice and bullish. Just overextended here, and it looks like it's showing some signs of exhaustion. So cautious with that, but much stronger than the US markets. So again, looking pretty happy. All right, Bitcoin today having a pretty good day, bouncing back up within this range. You can see that very strong finish there, back up above this 92,000 level. That monthly showing a bit of a bullish bar. Actually, my expectation, ironically, before looking at this, I was expecting some resistance here and a potential continuation down. But looking at it now, we're back up above this level. Very strong sort of bullish move there. Bullish move on that. And the weekly setting up with a bit of a, the monthly setting up with a very nice bullish candle. Here, I think this 100,000 level is still something to be, overcome. But right now, I'm actually impressed with most of this. Let's see how it is tomorrow. Again, if we see more downside with tech stocks, I would expect this to head lower as well. It's not immune at all to the whims of the markets at this point. But interesting, looking relatively bullish at this time, actually for March as well. However, that's day one or day two. So we've still got, I was expecting it to come down to test this level of support for sure. I was of the opinion we would have further downside. So let's just see how that ultimately plays out. Ethereum, within its downtrend, back into the previous lows here. Continuation here makes sense. MACD starting to diverge, so starting to show bullishness here. Might very well have actually found support. And here within the range, finding support. So actually Ethereum, looking at the weekly and the monthly here, there's fair chance here that we might see this push a little bit higher if it's going to be range bound. But that downtrend on the weekly, interesting. Consolidation, drop, pullback, consolidation, drop, pullback. Yeah, there's a lot of buying below these levels, but this looking a bit better. And actually, that's the first time where Ethereum is starting to show a bit more bullishness, kind of to reflect what Bitcoin, or to mirror what Bitcoin's going on. Apple. Nice strong day on Friday, but we're still a little bit all over. We've got lower highs, higher lows, quite a bit of indecision on that weekly candle, more of an indecision candle. And that kind of matches with this bearish divergence that we're seeing here, implies that we're going to have sideways markets for a bit with Apple. Microsoft continuing to test those lows, really at this level of support. I'm not saying it is... I think that it's fair. We might very well see this start to test the lows and go a little bit further to the downside. But it's got a level of support there. I'll watch that. It's also become very bearish on that momentum, although I could see it on the daily here. For now, my expectation is for it to continue to drip a little bit lower. Amazon as well. Not entirely super bulletproof here. Looking to see, I think we can get rid of those, but looking to see if we do get that pull down towards that 200 level. That monthly now starting to do that correction. And again, why not a little bit more further downside and then find support, and we'll see how it goes. Google. That's quite a heavy sell-off, right closing below that 50-period moving average. Not really a huge sign of strength on the weekly, and that monthly coming back down in here. So yes, there is the possibility if we do manage to recover so far. Otherwise, my expectation is we'll see further moves down to 150. Meta of the one so far, Meta doing relatively well. A little bit of indecision here. Even if it did do a correction on the monthly, wouldn't have that far down to go. This week, worthwhile looking at, do we get a bullish candle? Do we get a swing low? Do we break it? The trend otherwise looking very, very good, guys. We've got a bit of a double bottom here on the daily. Nice bullish candle. There's a lot of things here that point to the health of this trend, and therefore this weekly could potentially actually finish a little bit higher. That monthly just, very, very strong overall. Yeah, could we see a bit of a pullback and finish higher? Yes, this is certainly stronger than any of the previous ones I've looked at out of the Mag 7. NVIDIA definitely wobbling here, not quite succeeding. The monthly is continuing to show exhaustion on top. NVIDIA would really benefit from a correction to the downside, down towards 100 or even further down towards 80. Yes, it's going to try to stay above that. I can see that it is on the weekly trying to stay above these high lows, but it's got lower highs, high lows. It's leading to potentially either a bigger correction to the downside. And so for now, again, on that monthly, it really would benefit so much to just let go and just kind of have a deeper correction, especially after this bearish engulfing bar. Normally, there would have been a correction down towards 100 after that. We failed to get it, but we haven't really turned things around. So still showing some signs of weakness. Tesla coming down has actually now officially reached the level of resistance. Now potential to test it for support. It's overextended to the downside. I think some moves back up into the moving averages here. Then we're going to see if it takes another run down to the level. But from a correction perspective, from a monthly, it's pulled back into the right area. So this is a good place that if it is going to stabilize, this is the area for it to do it in. And excuse me, this week I'll be looking to see if we get any nice bullish green candles here. Excuse me. But I also expect during this week for price to head higher. The question is, does it continue back down, finish lower by the end of the week, or does it close higher? On that daily, this trend is nice and healthy. So in fact, further downside, when you look at the daily in isolation, further downside is to be expected. The question really is, how will this level 272 hold up? And then lastly, let's have a look at Netflix, which is supposed to be on my list here. Also, again, next to Meta, Netflix has got the healthiest trend that I could see. It just looks amazing. This week, will we pull down, test the previous highs here, produce a bullish candle, and are we ready to keep going? Overall, that monthly showing almost a little bit of an indecision / gravestone doji after getting one there. So yeah, I think it's overextended. Do I think it could benefit from a correction? Yes, I do. In isolation, this weekly looks pretty healthy, so I wouldn't be surprised to see if we get a bullish candle and it's ready to take another run, move to the upside. So interesting, looking at these, some of them appear to be setting up as though they expect to finish the week strong. That's going to be very interesting to me. It's almost as though they think that they're going to finish the week higher. They're anticipating a move higher now, whereas I'm saying I think we really need to see, because there could be some surprise numbers. If there's any of the impacts of the new administration starting to come through now, we're going to have to see how they impact the markets. So it's going to be a busy week, guys. Stay frosty, stay on your toes, manage things, and play it as it lies. Let's be cautious.